Hi there. Welcome to SPCE691, Supervising Human Service Staff. I'm hoping this introduction will get you quickly oriented to the course and get you ready to get started. Despite the fact that you have almost finished your master's degree, you should know that this course is probably going to be the most challenging one you'll experience. Why is that? Supervising human service staff requires you taking everything you've learned from every other course in behavior analysis, everything you've learned about altering human behavior, and generalizing it to direct care staff. So your focus now is only indirectly on clients. You're focusing on how do you change the behavior of staff, because if you can change staff behavior correctly, it means that you're going to change client outcomes. Now, human beings in general aren't very good at generalizing skills. Often we think it's just specific populations. No, or none of us are especially good at it. And so it's going to be hard. Even though you've learned a lot of these concepts in previous courses, applying it and thinking about them in relationship to direct care staff is just going to be different. Plus, of course, there is some literature that's unique to supervision that we want to introduce you to, as well as some documents that are unique to our field, and that has been put out by the BACB, for example. Now, you may work in a setting right now where all the direct care providers are just like you. They are college educated, they have experience in ABA, and that is not the direct care staff we're going to focus on in this course. Why? Because those are typically the easiest people to train. They're almost behavior analysts. What you need to do is figure out the hardest job that you might take, where you're supervising people that only have high school degrees, that their last job might have been in fast food, that they've got all kinds of challenges like transportation, for example, or English as a second language, and not one that they've fully mastered yet. There are all kinds of challenges that many direct care staff face. And once you're able to learn how to create training for those folks, it'll be easy for you to train anybody. You can train those direct care staff and you can train behavior analysts. So that's who we're focusing on in this course. For this course, I recommend downloading the syllabus and referring to it frequently. I have hyperlinked materials within the syllabus to make it easier for you to find information you're looking for. There's a lot of information that we're going to cover this term, and you're going to spend a lot of time generating new products as well, stuff that you can take with you and use after you graduate. There are discussion boards, but there aren't very many of them. I do want to point out that there's a community thread discussion board, and this is where I want you to post your questions. A lot of you don't contact your instructor at all, and I'm telling you, you want to contact your instructor, especially for this course. But what is the best way to reach your instructor? If you post your questions on the community thread, then one person asks the question, and then the instructor can respond. If you send me, let's say you're in my class and 7 of you have the same question and you email it to me, I'm going to take the time to email each one of you individually. But all of that time I could have been responding to what is essentially the same question once. It's going to slow me down in how quick I can grade and give you feedback, which is something that you really want. All right, so I talked about that. There are also going to be some individual assignments you do this semester. A lot of these are connected to ACT. I hope that you've been exposed to ACT a little bit before. If not, this is going to be a nice little introduction. You won't master everything related to ACT. But at least it's enough for a lot of students that it starts altering the way that they view themselves, their own reaction to situations, and how they should develop solutions to the challenges they face in their own lives or in their courses or working within groups, which is something you're going to do a lot this semester. Quizzes. I think there are 8 quizzes. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't double check that. And they are short quizzes, other than the last one. And even that one, I think, has only 15 questions. But here's the thing to know about the quizzes. They are harder than any quiz you've taken in any other class. They are designed to require very fine discrimination, very, very close attention to detail. And they all look like the hardest questions on the BCBA exam. So there might only be 2 questions on a quiz, but don't be surprised if it still takes you a long time to get through it. Because every distractor looks like it could be the right answer. Every single one. The plus side is there's no time limit as long as you can complete it within the unit in which it's assigned. So if you took 5 hours on 2 questions, that would be absolutely fine. The goal is to make sure that you're learning to pay close enough attention to the details, and also to learn how do you answer questions that are like this for the BCBA exam, because I know many of you will be doing that. What else? We have a number of short group assignments, so you'll be assigned into groups, not the first day. Usually it takes a couple of days in before you get assigned to groups. And I do want to say this before I forget. Many students drop or add this course during the first week of classes. And so you're going to want to start working effectively as a group right away, but there are some things like assigning who's going to do what in the group. You might want to hold off before you do too much on that, because if you do that and somebody new gets added to the group or somebody drops out, then you have to redistribute all that work, and it's going to take a lot more time and you'll end up frustrated. All right. So that's one activity. Associated with that, you'll do a contingency contract for the group. What are the consequences for completing work? What is the consequence for not completing work? And so it's good to remember what a contingency contract is and to apply it to yourself. Self-management is really critical for supervisors. You're also going to work on a training project. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the training project, although there are a whole bunch of videos about the training project, so I'm going to limit what I say here. But in shorter group assignments, you're going to complete each section of the training project. There are 5 different sections. And so each of you will generate some of those materials and provide feedback to each other. Lots of positive, lots and lots of constructive feedback. Remember, it's your job to make sure this is in the best condition possible. And you don't want it to come to me with it being unclear, unfocused. You don't want it to go to another group, which I'll talk about in a minute, and have it be unclear, unfocused. All right. And then there's also a group matrix that is also connected to ACT that I already talked about. It's connected to ACT and pro-social behavior. And a lot of students have told me they really enjoy the activity, and it gives them a lot of insight into their behavior within groups. Okay. The training project, there are a ton of points associated with the training project, because remember those small group assignments, but also then there's this whole group training project that you put together in one piece. So you get lots of points for both the sub pieces earlier in the semester and then the whole project when you're done. So what are the highlights, since I've got so much in video? The first thing I would suggest, and this is based on what my students have told me that they would recommend to you, meet via video conference at least once a unit. It takes a lot of work. You need to function really effectively as a group to make all of this work. You need to learn to trust each other, and to trust each other to be able to give feedback, but also to accept feedback. You need to be able to figure out all the little things. And so just planning to meet once each unit via video conference is a good idea. A couple of other things to think about. A lot of times people end up in groups and they're in different time zones. And I know a lot of times students will say, oh, it was inconvenient or whatever. I gotta tell you, in real life, I've worked with people all over the world. I work with people all over the world now and in my previous job when I ran the National Autism Center. Being a leader means assuming that that's not their fault, or I'm not angry with them, that's something out of their control. They live in a different time zone. And so real leadership involves not blaming others for things like that, and figuring out, how do we make this work? It might be challenging, but we need to figure out how to make it work. I've already said that the training project has a lot of points, and so you can't pass the course unless you do well in the training project. It's one more reason why you want to be able to work effectively as a group. In a group, everyone should demonstrate leadership in some way, and you'll read a lot about leadership in places throughout the semester. But a couple of things just to think about. If you're the person that in previous groups kind of sat back and didn't do a lot of the work, you can't do that. If you sat back and didn't do a lot because there was somebody else who you're like, I don't want to deal with the drama, guess what? Supervision is about leadership, and as a leader, you can't afford to say, I'm just going to let things happen. I'm going to let these two people get in conflict with each other. No, you need to function as a team. So you might not be the one that's organizing everyone, or you might not be the one giving the most feedback, or you might not be the one who's like, I know every single bit of this project that we're supposed to do. But you have to demonstrate leadership in some way, and every member needs to be able to demonstrate leadership skills and hopefully grow those over the course of the semester. I'll also say this, if you're the one who's played the martyr, oh, I've done everything in all my previous projects, I gotta tell you, most of your group mates in previous courses said you took up all the oxygen. You didn't give people enough space to step up. You made them so anxious that then they really weren't able to step up to the plate, and it was easier than confronting you and your judgment. So the reason I'm telling you this is a lot of people think that they're demonstrating leadership, and what they're really doing is not demonstrating leadership at all. You're just sucking up all the oxygen. Real leadership means facilitating participation for everyone. Real leadership involves helping people utilize the strengths that they bring to the table and to acquire new skills. And so I really want you to focus on how you lead in the group every single time you meet. All right, for the training project, there are 5 sections, and each section has a different purpose. Not only do you have to generate relevant information for these sections, you have to give feedback to each other. The other thing you have to do is each of these sections has a different purpose, but they're connected to each other. For example, you might have a section that is talking about a function-based intervention, let's say a non-contingent reinforcement. And then in the appendix, there is, which is in another section, there is a treatment fidelity or treatment integrity checklist. Well, these two are connected. The treatment fidelity checklist is for a non-contingent reinforcement. And so you might talk about what non-contingent reinforcement is and what the literature is supporting it in one section. And then in a timeline, which might be in a different part at least, you're going to tell them when they need to talk about that. Then you're going to provide lots of training materials, PowerPoints with instruction, PSIs, modeling, role playing. You're going to be doing coaching and feedback about non-contingent reinforcement. And so, wow, there are a lot of different sections that are covering the same thing, and it's your job to connect those. And for you to make it easy for someone who picks up a training manual to see where the links are from all of these materials. So yeah, let's break that down. There are 2 sections. There's a training manual that you develop for the trainer, and it should guide them through everything they could possibly need to know to deliver training, and 2 function-based interventions. Then there are the materials you need to provide training, and that could be anything from what stimuli do you need to demonstrate to your trainees, non-contingent reinforcement, say. By the way, sometimes, it could involve those materials. It could involve the PowerPoint slides with a script. It could involve a functioning PSI, which if you don't know what that is, that's okay. We're going to learn about that this semester. It could include exactly what the script is for modeling, or you could create a video model. And so then you actually create the video model, and then you actually put that link in the manual so that the trainer knows exactly when they're supposed to use it. And so those materials, sometimes I call them training materials, sometimes I call them supplemental materials, sometimes the appendices. But in all cases, there are 2 components: the training manual that's used by the trainer, and then all of the materials they might use to complete that training. Other kinds of materials, they're going to be assessment tools, they're going to be resources for trainers. Like I said, it's everything that a trainer would need to teach 2 function-based interventions. This semester, you're going to sign up. There are going to be 4 different functions, and you can sign up for whichever function you want. And each group is going to do 2 function-based interventions based on that function. So it's not just, oh, you're doing this intervention. You are doing, this is the function of the behavior, and this is the intervention you're using for this function. And there are going to be 2 choices, and you're going to teach people how to choose which one to use. It's a lot of fun. It's hard, but it's a lot of fun because this is what you're going to be doing with your career, right? It's not all you're doing, but it's a lot of what you're going to be doing in your career, and we pull it all together in one giant project. All right, so you pull all those pieces together, you do them each in sections, and then you pull it all together. What happens next? Well, you pair with another group that's also done their training project, and you guys give each other feedback. You give each other written feedback, and you do a video conference. You record the video conference where you give each other positive and constructive feedback on the main points you want them to take away. And then you also make sure that people get an opportunity to ask questions about the written feedback that you've provided. Those are the major assignments for the semester. The other thing I want you to know is that there are rubrics for most of the assignments, not all, but most of them. You can find the rubric in assignments in Canvas. I always recommend checking these out. Why? It tells you how to invest your time. I mean, if you've got one part of a project that is worth only 5 points and you've got another part that's worth 50 points, I gotta tell you, the smart money is to spend your time on the 50 points. Not that you want to ignore the 5-pointer. Nobody wants to lose those 5 points, but you don't want to spend more time in the 5-point section than the 50-point section, right? Okay. All right. I love teaching this course, and it's because our students grow so much through this course. They take all these things they've learned previously and they make it more concrete, and they're able to apply it to a new population, which means even when they go out to apply it to new client populations, they have a better mastery of applied behavior analysis. Having said this, it's a hard course. And another thing to know is that we have substantially revised the course. There are a lot of recent materials, so lots of new readings compared to where the course was in previous semesters. If you find, and podcasts for the first time, which I think is really cool. I'm excited about these changes, but here's what you should know. If you completely revise a course, there are going to be mistakes. Absolutely, there are going to be mistakes. If you are frustrated because you can't figure something out, don't blame your instructor. You should blame me. I am Dr. Susan Wilczynski. I made most of these changes. Now, I made these changes based on what my own students told me they wish this course was doing differently. And I made these changes based on things instructors suggested would make the course better. But there's a 100% chance that taking the suggestions that they had and translating into what we need to do in Canvas, there's 100% that I've done something wrong. I am not the master of Canvas. I'm sure I set something up in Canvas that I think worked one way and it actually works another way, or I'll think I was perfectly clear in my instructions and I wasn't. They weren't detailed enough, or I left like the word not out, which would be very confusing. When this happens, and I say when, because I assume it'll happen, don't just gripe to each other. Go to your instructor. Get the right answer from the instructor. Research shows that for online courses, students that go to their instructors instead of just to their classmates get much better grades. So you want to go to your instructor. And what's a great way to do this? There's that community thread. I set up a community thread so that you can post any questions you have about the course there. And the reason to do that, I think I already mentioned this, the reason to do that is that you are likely, the question you're asking is one that probably a lot of other people want the answer to. And it could be that I'm spending all my time responding to the same question for lots of emails, and so it takes me longer before I get you feedback that you really want quickly. I mean, everybody likes their stuff graded fast, right? Or it could be that somebody else in the class is afraid to ask the same question. They have this feeling like they might look foolish if they ask this question, so they don't even reach out. And you can help somebody else in the class just by being brave enough to post on the community thread. You'll learn to use it more and more. I will tell you that for a lot of students, they don't use it in the beginning and they start using it more over time. But you need to reinforce us too, our behavior too. And so if I've got a community thread and I go check it out pretty regularly and nobody's posted a question, what's going to happen with my behavior? That's right, I'm probably going to stop checking that frequently. And then you're going to post something really important to the community thread, and then I won't even have seen it. So post every question you have there and let your instructors respond. You, of course, can reach out to them through email. I'm not telling you not to do that. Especially don't post anything of a personal nature, any challenges that you're facing personally. Reach out to the instructor through email for that, and they can communicate with you after the email, whatever way the two of you agree is best. So, as future supervisors and future leaders, do what the good students do. Use the resources that are available to you, all the material we've got here in Canvas. Use your instructors, use your group mates, but remember, group mates should often reach out to the instructor to look for clarification. If you're confused about absolutely any of it, reach out to your instructor so they can provide clarification. Now, because this course was changed, they might have to reach out to me. And so you reach out to them, they reach out to me. You might not get an answer in 24 hours, but you're going to get an answer. And we're going to make sure that you understand it and you have everything you need to do great in this course. All right, now go get started.